You know that feeling? That sudden involuntary gasp, your heart just hammering away in your chest, and that electric surge of adrenaline, right? Everything else just kind of narrows, fades away. We've all been there. That raw, ancient feeling when something truly alarming happens. It's this physical, mental jolt. But what exactly is going on inside you, in your brain and body when you feel that? And here's something that might surprise you. That heart pounding thing. It might not actually be fear in the way you usually think about it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into what fear really is, psychologically, neurobiologically. We're going beyond the usual assumptions.
It really is remarkable, isn't it? Fear isn't just one simple feeling. It's primal, protective. It sets off this whole complex biochemical and, well, emotional reaction. And what's truly fascinating is how universal some of those biochemical changes are, not just across humans, but you see them in other animals too. It really tells you how fundamental it is for, survival.
Okay, so that immediate physical reaction, we feel the pounding heart, the quick breath, what's actually happening under the hood. How does the body pull that off so fast?
Right. That super fast reaction is what we call the fight or flight response. You might also hear it called hyperarousal or the acute stress response. Basically, its job is to get your body ready, almost instantly, to either face down the danger or, well, run away from it. It's your emergency gear kicking in.
So it's more like a domino effect than a single alarm bell, is that right? How does that chain reaction start in the brain?
Absolutely a cascade, yeah. It all kicks off in the amygdala. That's that sort of almond-shaped bit deep in your temporal lobe. When the amygdala senses a potential threat, boom, it sends a signal straight to the hypothalamus. That then gets the pituitary gland going, which releases a hormone called ACTH. And at the same time, your sympathetic nervous system, think of it as your body's automatic alarm system, lights up your adrenal glands.
The adrenal glands, right. That's where adrenaline comes from.
Exactly. They flood your system with stress hormones called catecholamines. That includes epinephrine, which most people know as adrenaline, and also norepinephrine. And then there's cortisol, too, which gets pumped out. That ramps up your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and it actually dials down your immune system temporarily.
Wow. Okay. So with all these potent chemicals flooding our system, what are the actual physical changes we feel and why? What's the survival point of each one?
Well, with that hormonal surge, your blood flow gets rerouted. It goes straight to your major muscles, your heart, your brain. You need those powered up for quick action, right? For intense effort. Your heart rate and blood pressure spike up, boosting cardiac output to get energy everywhere fast.
And the energy itself, where does that come from?
Your liver jumps in, releasing more glucose, sugar, and fats into your bloodstream. That's the fuel for that sudden energy demand. You start breathing faster, too, to get more oxygen in to burn that extra glucose. Even your blood changes and gets ready to clot faster, just in case you get injured.
Makes sense. What about that shaky feeling some people get?
Yeah, that can happen. Your muscles tense up, getting ready for speed and strength, which can sometimes cause trembling. Oh, and your pupils dilate, they get wider. In more light, sharpens your vision a bit. Every single one of these changes has a specific job, all aimed at immediate survival.
It really sounds like this incredibly efficient, almost automatic survival machine. Can you give us a sort of real-world picture, something that shows this immediate prep work?
Sure. Think about a zebra out on the savannah just grazing. The second it spots a lion moving in, it's not thinking, danger, perhaps I should run. No. Its stress response just ignites instantly. Its body is immediately primed for that explosive escape run. All systems go, totally automatic. Or picture a house cat suddenly cornered by a big dog.
Yeah, you see it happen. Fur on end.
Exactly. Heart racing for standing up, pupils huge. Those are all classic signs of that sympathetic nervous system kicking into high gear. Life-saving functions happening without conscious direction. It's pretty amazing.
It makes total sense for raw survival. But this brings up a really interesting point you mentioned earlier about how we understand fear itself. We often hear the amygdala called the brain's fear center. Is that really accurate, or is it more complicated?
That's a really key question. The amygdala is definitely crucial for responding to threats, no doubt about it. But calling it the fear center is, well, it's a bit too simple and can even be misleading. A better way to think about it is as a defensive survival circuit. Its main job is controlling the non-conscious physical and behavioral responses to threats.
Non-conscious. So it's reacting before we even feel scared, like something running in the background?
Precisely. And there's good evidence for this. Studies have shown you can flash a threatening image so quickly, people don't consciously register seeing it subliminally. But their amygdala still lights up, and you can measure physical responses, like sweating or a faster heart rate. And crucially, the person doesn't report feeling afraid. Yeah. You see similar things in patients with something called blind sight. They can't consciously see in part of their visual field, but if a threat appears there, their amygdala can still react, triggering those body responses. Plus, people with damage specifically to the amygdala can still experience emotions, including fear sometimes. That tells us the amygdala contributes, sure, but it doesn't single-handedly create the feeling of fear.
That is genuinely mind-bending. Our bodies can be gearing up for danger before our conscious mind even gets the memo. And this isn't just a human or mammal thing, right? You mentioned this defensive circuit goes way back.
Oh, way, way back. We're talking deep evolutionary history. These basic survival behaviors reacting to threats, they probably existed before animals even had nervous systems, maybe even back to the earliest forms of life.
Seriously, like single-celled organisms.
Yeah, even single-celled protozoa and bacteria show basic approach avoidance. They move away from harmful stuff towards useful stuff. These defensive survival circuits are remarkably conserved across evolution. You see versions of fish, even in primitive lampreys, and in invertebrates too. Think about how a fly freezes when it detects a threat. Even the genes involved in learning about threats without conscious awareness, what we call implicit learning, those are ancient and shared across wildly different species.
So in that deep historical sense, behavior isn't really about psychology. Not conscious feeling anyway.
Not fundamentally, no. In that ancient context, behavior is just a tool organisms use to stay alive. A bacterium isn't avoiding a chemical because it feels scared like we do. Its response is about maintaining its physiological stability. It's just doing what it needs to do to survive. The way an animal runs or freezes, the specific action, is often just down to its body plan, how it's built. What's passed down are the underlying mechanisms that trigger those life-preserving actions.
Okay, right. So if the amygdala is running these ancient, non-conscious survival programs, where does the actual feeling of fear come from? The conscious awareness, I am scared of that.
Now that's where your thinking brain, your cortex, really steps up. Conscious fear, the feeling itself, isn't directly squirted out by the amygdala survival circuit. Instead, it's a subjective experience. It's personal. It's shaped by your own memories, your understanding of the world, what psychologists call schemas. It's even shaped by your culture. It's basically the story your conscious brain constructs about what's happening based on the input it's getting.
So the feeling of fear is more about how we interpret everything, the situation, those physical sensations the amygdala triggered. And areas like the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex are key players there.
Spot on. Those higher brain areas work together with the amygdala. They interpret the threat, and crucially, they add context. Think about seeing a lion. If it's suddenly right in front of you in the wild, you'll likely have a massive, immediate survival response. Pure terror, maybe, but see the exact same lion pacing behind thick glass at the zoo.
Right, totally different feeling. More like awe or maybe just interest.
Exactly. Your thinking brain, your hippocampus providing memory context, your prefrontal cortex evaluating the situation, processes that safety information. We're at a zoo, there's glass.
Right.
That context dampens the raw amygdala reaction, allowing for a different conscious feeling to emerge. Your thinking part reassures the reacting part.
So it's not a simple pipeline. Threat, amygdala, fear. It's more like, threat, amygdala, physical response, plus context thinking brain, conscious feeling, which might be fear or something else, like an internal narrator.
That's a great way to put it. Conscious experience, fear included, always seems to follow this non-conscious processing of what's coming in through our senses, plus our memories. Your brain builds a kind of mental model, a non-conscious story about what's going on, and that story is what populates your conscious awareness. That story might be danger, or it might be, wow, look at that.
And for us, humans, with our complex language and ability to imagine things, our experience of fear must be uniquely layered, right?
Absolutely. Our consciousness allows fear to attach to things far beyond immediate physical danger. We can feel fear about, say, losing our job or about the economy or political events, things that aren't a lion chasing us. These are abstract threats. Our innate survival circuits alone couldn't really process job insecurity. It's our cognitive abilities, our interpretation, that allow us to frame these abstract concepts as threats and then feel afraid because of them.
That really helps make sense of something I've always wondered about, why some people seem to absolutely love being scared. Horror movies, roller coasters, extreme sports, while others hate it. The physical response is universal, you said, but the feeling isn't.
That's a perfect example of this cognitive layer in action. The physical fight-or-flight chemistry. Pretty much the same for everyone in a scary situation. But the emotional experience is incredibly personal because of how our thinking brain interprets it. For some people, that state of high arousal, the racing heart, the adrenaline, when it happens in a context they know is safe, feels good. Exhilarating, even. It lets us push our boundaries, try new things. It's like our brain is saying, okay, body, you can go full alert, but heads up, this isn't real danger.
So it boils down to context and feeling like you have some control. My thinking brain knows the roller coaster is safe, even if my stomach is doing flips.
Precisely. That feedback loop between the thinking brain and the emotional or reacting brain is key. When you perceive safety, you know the haunted house actors aren't actually going to hurt you, or you trust the bungee cord. You can relabel that physical arousal. It shifts from terror to thrill or excitement. That sense of control or perceived safety is vital. Take that away, and it just becomes terrifying.
But then you have the opposite situation, like with phobias, where that sense of control just vanishes, even if logically you know you're safe.
That's a critical contrast, yes. In phobias, the fear reaction is way out of proportion to the actual danger. Someone with a spider phobia, for instance, might intellectually know that a tiny house spider can't harm them, but they can't consciously control that overwhelming physical and emotional panic response. It's like the survival circuit hijacks everything. They often end up fearing the feeling of fear itself, leading to avoidance.
It sounds like finding the right balance is key for, say, enjoying a scary movie. Too much raw reaction without enough cognitive control equals terror. Too much control, maybe overthinking it, and it's just not scary.
That's a really good way to frame it. It's a balance. If that emotional arousal feels overwhelming, if your cognitive brain loses its sense of safety or control, maybe the movie feels too real, then even a thrill seeker might find it genuinely unpleasant. But on the other hand, if your cognitive brain is constantly analyzing and dismissing the threat, oh, that monster makeup looks fake, then the emotional arousal never really gets going and the experience falls flat. It's boring.
Okay, so understanding the split, the ancient survival circuits doing their thing, and our newer cognitive brain interpreting it all this must have pretty big implications for how we treat conditions involving extreme fear, right?
Huge implications, absolutely. It's crucial for tackling conditions like phobias, panic disorder, PTSD, where fear becomes debilitating. If you mistakenly think the amygdala is the fear center and you only target that, you're missing a huge part of the picture. You're ignoring the cognitive interpretation part.
Which is where treatments like exposure therapy fit in, helping people sort of recalibrate that interpretation.
It's exactly. Exposure therapies, like systematic desensitization or flooding, work directly on this principle. With systematic desensitization, you gradually expose someone to the feared thing, say snakes, in very small, manageable steps, while teaching them relaxation or coping skills. You start with just talking about snakes, then pictures, maybe videos, maybe a toy snake, eventually working up to being near a real snake in a totally safe setting. Flooding is more intense, prolonged exposure in a safe environment until the panic subsides. Both methods essentially help the brain relearn its response. They make the feared stimulus feel familiar and less threatening, retraining that cognitive interpretation alongside managing the physical reaction. It needs professional guidance, of course.
And you mentioned earlier that this older view of the amygdala as the fear center might have actually held back developing better medications.
That's a really important point that comes up in the research, yes. If drug development focuses on animal models where they measure, say, freezing behavior, assuming that directly translates to reducing the feeling of fear in humans, well, it might not. A drug might make an animal freeze less or reduce its physiological stress markers, but that doesn't automatically mean it reduces the subjective conscious feeling of dread or anxiety in a person. The ultimate goal for treating anxiety or fear disorders should be helping people feel subjectively better, right? And that means we need to address the mental, the cognitive component, not just the physical symptoms. Understanding fear as a cognitive construct opens up new ways to think about treatment.
So pulling this all together then, what's the big takeaway for us, for you listening, as we deal with our own fears day to day?
I think the core shift is seeing fear not as this single monolithic thing produced by a fear button in the brain.
Yeah.
Instead, it's this dynamic interplay. You've got these incredibly ancient, non-conscious defensive survival circuits. They're the ones making your heart pound, giving you that adrenaline rush, prepping your body. That's automatic. And then you have your more recently evolved cognitive circuits, primarily in the cortex, that take in that physical data, assess the situation, pull in memories and context, and construct the conscious feeling we label as fear. Recognizing that separation, that interplay, isn't just interesting science. It can actually give you a bit more perspective on your own reactions.
That's a really powerful reframe. So the next time you feel that familiar surge, that jolt of alarm, maybe pause for a second. Ask yourself, is this purely that ancient survival wiring firing off? Or is my thinking brain, my cortex, constructing a story, a specific feeling based on everything it's processing? Just understanding that complex dance between our body's immediate defenses and our mind's interpretation might actually empower you. Empower you to manage those reactions a little differently, whether you're facing something genuinely challenging or maybe just queuing up for the next big roller coaster.